Thank you guys very much for having us here. We are new to Newmont. We just learned about it a couple months ago, actually, and then we started setting up this. And I really see it as an opportunity for both the school here as well as for us. We're often looking for people to fill our positions. We are a high-tech company located in Silicon Valley. We're actually based out of Sunnyvale primarily. We have a location here in Draper, Utah, which is actually what brought us kind of to Newmont. We are located kind of around the globe, and I'll get into that in just a minute. But who are we is what I really want to talk about initially. So we are a next-generation cybersecurity company that protects the way people work today. And what we mean by that is companies are constantly under attack. They are under attack both from a systems level. They are under attack from a manipulation level of personnel. They are under phishing attacks. They get, I'm sure everybody in this room has heard of phishing attacks or received an email that says something along the lines of, hey, click this link to change your password for Bank of America because they have this problem. So we protect people from advanced attacks that target email, mobile apps, and social media. The social media thing is a new thing. We kind of just purchased a company that's helping us add that to our suite of products. And the interesting thing about phishing attacks is a lot of people have heard about generalized phishing attacks, but now companies, the bad actors in the market are getting even more aggressive and smarter, so we're constantly having to be in front of them. Now they have this thing called spear phishing, which some people haven't heard of. Spear phishing is where, for example, let's say you're the CEO of the company. I look up all this information I can find about you, and then I send you a very personalized email that requests you to click on some link or something, and you may see it and go, well, this guy clearly knows who I am. I'll click this link, and the next thing you know, I've gained access to your computer, or I've gained access to systems that you didn't intend for me to do. It's actually become a real problem in the industry, and people are falling for it left and right, so we protect against that. Not only do we protect against that, we protect against the information people create from advanced attacks. This means in the company, you may create specific documents or things that you don't want to share outside of the company. You may collect credit card information, you may collect social security information, that kind of thing. Our systems can help the company prevent internal people from sending out information that we don't want them to send out. It'll block credit card numbers, it'll block social security numbers. It can even block PDFs that you have flagged as confidential company information that shouldn't be shared outside the company from being sent out through your company systems. And then finally, we equip people to react quickly when things go wrong, because inevitably things do go wrong. It just happens in this industry. So what will happen is, and I'd love to show you a demo, except I'm the wrong person to show you the demo. What happens is, say your company gets hit by a phishing attack, and it's not part of our intelligence system yet. It's a brand new attack. For some reason, it gets through, and then it gets flagged eventually. We may say, oh, now we recognize this, and by the way, we let this through to your system. You guys need to be aware of that. You can go to our system and see, here is the 5 people that actually clicked on that link in that email and open that email, and where they have gone from there. Maybe it's now spread to other computers in your network. We can tell you those are the computers it's spread to, so that you as an IT professional can go in and shut down those computers and talk to those people and take whatever actions you need to take to clean up the system. And we make it, it's very evident when you see the demo, which again, I'm not gonna actually show you a demo today, but if you could see the demo, it's actually very intuitive. It's incredible to use from an IT professional perspective. Any questions about that so far? Okay. Feel free to ask, by the way. This is not a super lengthy presentation. So 2016, these are our company's global initiatives. We are uniquely positioned in the marketplace, and those of you that I've talked to already. In the cybersecurity industry, there's really kind of been some big players that you may have heard of. Symantec, McAfee, you probably haven't really heard of Proofpoint. I would argue that we are actually the leading cybersecurity provider at this time. Symantec and McAfee have kind of crumbled and fallen apart as the companies are restructuring or selling off components of that. During this period, our mantra has been put your foot on the gas, because we are spreading the distance between those companies and ourselves rapidly, and we want to be in a much better place than they are when they finally get their act together and figure out, hey, we want to do this, or we want to really heavily invest in this area. We want to be so far ahead of that mark at that point that they can't catch up. So, you know, our goal right now is to just keep our foot on the gas, keep moving forward, and keep selling our product. We are currently in about half of the Fortune 100 companies and about a quarter of Fortune 500 companies at this point. So we're making incredible progress. We have big name customers that use our systems, and yeah. So our goals for this year, beat our numbers, beat our sales numbers, which we are consistently beating. Our company is scheduled to go profitable by the end of this year, and we're on track to do that. So we're meeting the street. We are publicly traded, by the way. We've been around for about 11 years. We want to continue to build on the Proofpoint brand. A lot of you probably haven't heard about this. When I actually first took the job 2 years ago, I had not heard of them. I came from 9.5 years at Yahoo, and my boss brought me over to this company, and I was like, what's it called again? PowerPoint? No, Proofpoint. Okay. And I kept, every time I would talk to friends and relatives, they'd say, where are you going? I say, I go Proofpoint. We actually kind of stay under the radar intentionally. As a security company, you're kind of putting yourself downrange as people are shooting at these other companies, and you're stepping in the way of that and saying, no, I'm going to take the hits. So we tend to stay kind of low-key intentionally. So you're not going to hear about them like a Yahoo or an eBay or something like that. We continue to take market share in email security. This is where I'm talking about we're stealing from Symantec. We're stealing from McAfee as they are kind of crumbling. We're absolutely looking at leveraging those markets and taking advantage of those. Advanced threat and drive platform sales. We're just continuing again to do that, to build our wallet share, which is effectively we are trying to, once we show a customer our base product, we have all these other products that we add on to it. And once they see the product that we show them and they get comfortable with it, we try to continue to leverage our other products, whether it's social media or whatever, so that we can pull in more of their business from that individual customer. A lot of times what we'll do for a customer is we will set our product up behind a current existing product they have, and we'll say, go ahead and continue to run your product, and we'll show you what we catch that they missed, that they let through. And then we'll provide them and it's a pretty compelling sales argument when you say, by the way, here's everything that your current solution just let through. And they go, oh, well, maybe we don't have a good solution in place. Lead social media security and compliance. Say you're a company like Macy's or Burger King or something along those lines. I'm just picking names out. Those are not actual customers of ours. Macy's might be, I don't know. And you know, maybe you hate Burger King. And you're like, I hate Burger King. Oh, those guys screwed up my Whopper again. And so you hate them so much that you create a Facebook page that looks like Burger King's Facebook page, and you start posting derogatory things on that page. We actually provide tools that allow you to isolate and identify false pages around you, protect yourself against those, report those to the company, to the various social media companies in order to get them pulled down, that kind of thing. As well as tools that can help you on your page protect yourself from people who are just slamming your page with negative comments, that kind of thing. And continue to enhance our employee experience. Proofpoint, as I said, has been around for 11 years. I have been there 2 years after 9.5 years at Yahoo. I left Yahoo with a bit of trepidation after being at a company for that long. You're very comfortable in what you're doing. You're familiar with the culture and everything. I have never been happier with this move. Like, never been happier. This is a great company to work for. I actually have brought over several people I knew from Yahoo, as well as my boss has brought over several people from Yahoo. So I'm working with collaborative teams, people who work together, people who are looking to solve problems together. There is, in one of the interviews I did earlier today, I said I'd be lying if I said there was no politics. Like, every company will stand up here and tell you, oh, we hate politics and we don't have any politics at our company. It's not true. There's politics in everything that you're dealing with. What I will say is they never get in the way of our correct progress. They're really there to help us steer things in the right direction. There is nobody on my team or any team at Proofpoint that I cannot go to and I cannot say, hey, I'm having trouble, or we need help understanding this, or we need to work together on this. And everybody's incredibly collaborative. Would either of you disagree? By the way, this is Kanitha, who is one of our HR representatives, and this is Kevin. Kevin is our NOC manager here. He reports directly into me. He is our NOC manager here in Draper. We have 2 NOC locations. Under me, I should say that the Network Operations Center is under me, as well as data center operations. We have data centers located around the globe. The Network Operations Center has a location here in Draper, and we have one in Belfast, Northern Ireland, which we just recently moved into. We moved out of Toronto and into Belfast because Belfast is a city and a country that is very industrial, and they are looking to get into the technical market, and so they're trying to lure companies there. We took them up on that offer, and it's been awesome. It's been an awesome experience. I was just telling somebody who's going there, they filmed Game of Thrones there in Belfast, actually, in that area. And the actors were all staying at my hotel last time I was there. And this was before they were filming a current season, so I kept like sneaking pictures of them and stalking them and stuff. And no, I didn't see Jon Snow, as everybody kept trying to find out if he was still alive or not. Okay, so a little bit about our culture. We strive to delight our customers. On occasion, we don't. On occasion, we have outages. We have things that impact our customers, but we take it all very seriously. Every customer is very valuable to us, to the point of when we have major outages, our executive team starts calling customers and talking to them. Not particularly scalable from a very large point of view, but they do take it very seriously, and we are constantly trying to improve based on customer feedback. We act with honesty and integrity. I think that's easy for people to say, but in the security industry, it is paramount that you are trustworthy and that you do and say, you do what you say you're going to do and you execute on all that. I already talked about being a team. I talked about we innovate in all aspects of our business. This is also a very fast-moving market, the security industry. You are constantly having companies pop up and nip at your heels. We either look at those companies and decide, is this somebody that we consider a threat? Is this somebody we should buy? Is this somebody we see things that they're doing that we want to integrate into our products? And we look at all those every time this comes up. So we have very forward-looking kind of product and company intelligence that's going on. We take initiative and drive accountability. This is a key metric right here, this driving accountability. As you guys will see, if you haven't worked in a tech company before, larger companies, and I'm going to kind of disparage Yahoo a little bit here, larger companies like Yahoo tend to have people that you could do without. They sit there and they're not achieving, they're not pushing themselves forward, but they're so large they can kind of hide within the organization. Driving accountability is actually one of our things in operations that we give you goals, or you set goals for yourself, or whatever the case may be, but we expect that they get executed on. And if they're not, we figure out what coaching and action needs to take place there. But in general, this drives our productivity to tremendous heights. Knowing that you are responsible for something, and by the way, we give our employees an incredible amount of responsibility. The Network Operations Center in our company does more than any other network operations center I've ever seen. And I've been at Microsoft, I've been at Yahoo, and I've been here. They have root access to our systems. They can make changes. They're expected to be able to follow up on those changes. They have more access and forward thinking and access to other parts of the company than anything I've ever seen. So it's taken very seriously by us. It's an absolute like kind of entry level, like we get them in the door. But I hate to use that term entry level because it does kind of disparage the level of technical knowledge and commitment required to do it. My voice is gone. And then last but not least, we're here to win. Our CEO, Gary Steele, is very serious about this. He's been the CEO the entire time the company has been in existence. During our latest sales kickoff meeting, he's the one that was talking about keep our foot on the gas, watch our competitors fall behind us, do not slow down even though they are slowing down right now. We have to widen that gap. We are absolutely here to win this space and become the cybersecurity solution for companies across the globe. And when I speak across the globe, we have about 1,300 people in the company currently. We are expected to grow that as we continue. I don't know what the growth numbers are, but around 400 by the end of 2016, so significantly. Our main headquarters is in Sunnyvale, California, followed by Draper, where we have about 240 people. And then, as I said, we've opened up recently in Belfast, Northern Ireland, where we have 70 people. A lot of this group is sales folks. I won't kid you there. But we do have also technical account managers who are incredibly technical. They're absolutely able to set up system and troubleshoot problems for customers, that kind of thing. In addition to that, we have data centers located around the globe that I have a data center team that manages those data centers. And again, as I was talking earlier about the amount of responsibility, a typical data center technology, data center operations person in, say, Yahoo, we would bring in a guy who'd probably make $12 to $15 an hour. He would rack and stack equipment. He'd just work through a ticket queue each day, rack and stack the equipment without any thought. Our data center technicians actually not only do the racking and stacking equipment, which is just part of the base job, but they're also planning for growth. They're anticipating our needs in each data center in terms of here's how many more racks we need to open to prepare for upcoming product launches, upcoming space, upcoming customers. Additionally, they're literally responsible for strategizing some of the data center responsibilities and traveling around where we don't have data center people to go to those data centers. So there's actually a lot of travel involved with that particular group and a lot of work and a lot of thought. So again, going back to the kind of taking ownership piece, they absolutely take a tremendous amount of pride and ownership in the work they do. If any of you have ever seen a data center and how out of control it can get, you'll know that it can quickly go from a really nice, fancy-looking data center to just a nightmare of responsibility. Yeah?
Candidates for future offices.
Candidates for future offices. We're not actually sure at the moment, but we are looking at opening potentially a data center somewhere in the APAC region. So we're looking at maybe Australia, maybe Singapore. I don't know. We haven't really decided. We actually bring in a consultant company to help us identify where we have some pretty good potential opportunities there. And it really is driven, that's a great question, because it's really driven by sales, right? I mean, the crazy thing is, like, we could sign one huge customer that can blow our plan out of the water because we're like, oh, we need to build 5 racks of equipment that we hadn't planned on. And potentially, one of the reasons we're looking kind of the APAC region is because we want to start driving sales there as well.
They had their hand up first.
Oh, hi.
I was wondering, so do you guys have remote work? Because it seems like you have like people, like 5 people in Colorado.
Great question. So the question was if we had remote work. It depends on the role. It absolutely depends on the role. In some cases we do. In some cases we actually require people to be in the office. In some cases they can be in the office 4 out of 5 days or 3 out of 5 days, depending upon the work they're doing.
You just said that. So it does, usually when you see small numbers like that.
It's usually sales.
Salespeople or, as you mentioned, the technical account managers. I hire those as well. And so they can be in various parts of the country.
Depending on the market they're trying to address.
Like engineering jobs, development jobs, those sort of jobs, typically we want them in a Proofpoint office.
Yep. That's a better answer than I could have given.
That pretty much answered.
That answered your question too.
About like the people where it's just like there's one random person like Switzerland.
Yeah, typically like this is our salesperson, you know. Actually this isn't, but that's a whole other thing I can't go into.
This actually goes back to a couple slides where I was thinking of this. I was wondering, how do you actually monitor the system? Do you deploy software to the servers? Do you deploy software?
Great question. How do we actually monitor the systems? Currently we're using Nagios, Nagi for most of our stuff. And we are, which is, to be honest, like I'm not thrilled with like the dashboard it provides and everything, but switching to that is a major undertaking at this point. So at some point we will switch to something else, but currently we're primarily setting up alerts and watching systems through alerts like that. On occasion we will accept some things through email alerts, but that's usually for a short period of time that we say, you're trying to launch this, okay, we'll allow it for 30 days, but you need to get onto our monitoring system. We have a few other graphs and things that we use depending upon the customers and whatnot. We also have a system that we watch mail kind of traverse the whole process of going to the customer, coming through, and coming back. So we watch that as well. Does that answer your question? Okay. Somebody else had a question? No? Oh, back there? Sorry.
When you set up your security solution, is that done mostly remotely or is it physically in person?
Great question. So we are actually a software as a service company. So we are setting it up typically remotely. And we're telling the customers, here's where you need to set your settings. There are a few customers left over that are kind of like a legacy thing where it's an on-prem type of solution where we actually have hardware on their premises. Some companies I actually can't talk about, but and then we would potentially do that for the right customer, but it'd have to be a pretty big customer. So, but typically we're a software as a solution company.
How big are your customers usually?
I'm sorry?
How big are your customers usually? Like, some are like some big companies, but it seems like a lot of them are like more like medium-sized.
Oh no, no. We have major banks. We have major software companies. When I say that, these are companies you would have heard of. You would have heard of. And we typically don't advertise those companies like what they are, but they are. Like I said, half of the Fortune 100 companies are on Proofpoint at this point, and about a quarter to I think a third of the Fortune 500 companies are on Proofpoint. So they are absolutely. Now we do sell. This is a great point. Like we do sell a kind of medium business type of solution. So we do sell something like, hey, maybe you have 20 people in your company and you really want to leverage it. We have a product that will work for that scale as well.
Do you monitor their internal networks as well, or is it just more like looking at the phishing attacks and social media?
Right, so the question was, do we monitor their internal networks as well? No, we don't. We actually just monitor our system specifically. But for the other solution I was talking about where we can go back and identify where you've actually had impact, I mean, we can tell you like where it went and who opened it because we're effectively taking over your email solution in that point. But we don't necessarily monitor like their internal network for any kind of thing. Does that make sense? Okay. Oh, I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. So aside from the cybersecurity, you were mentioning the data center. So do you guys offer like off-site storage for companies as well?
That's actually a great question. I should have mentioned. We also have an archiving solution. That is actually what's based out of our Toronto office primarily. It was a company that we bought many, many years ago and now integrated in. What an archiving solution is for those who maybe are not familiar is, and I always use this example, say you're a law firm and you collect lots and lots of documents because you're a big law company that does real estate deals across the board. So you're going to have thousands and thousands of pages, potentially terabytes of data. Our Proofpoint archiving solution allows you to archive and save all those, and we go through a process where we break it down for searching capability so that we can return a search on any of that data within 7 seconds, which is massive when you're talking about terabytes of data. Yeah, and in fact, we have that SLA, and if we fall outside that SLA, we actually have to pay the companies back money. So we're very serious about maintaining it. Any other questions so far? Hi.
So you mentioned that you do keep copies of the systems for whatever reasons. And do you ever, what is your private policy for those things like that? When you work with companies, but you do have access to their emails, do you?
Oh, it's all encrypted at that point. We actually do not have the ability to go through and like look at their email or everything is encrypted. The key is kept with them. They have complete access of it. Yeah.
Something
Yeah.
before you turn to slides.
Yeah, please.
Just to help you guys understand our growth, this was the end of Q1, which was March. We're in the middle of Q2 right now. We're probably close to 1350 that we hired. So that's where our growth is going right.
When I came to the company 2 years ago, we were under 1,000. We were at like 950.
And I've just been here a year. I came out of Symantec 4 years out of Symantec. Which is why
Imagine that.
In local office here in Draper, when I was hired, I was number 64. Now we got 260.
Yeah.
So
240. Okay, so I want to talk a little bit about the operations organization, because that's really what I represent here. I don't represent our development organization. I am the director of operations over Network Operations Center and DC Ops, as I just talked about a moment ago. There are several other directors over other parts of our operations group. Operations itself is actually responsible for maintaining all of the systems, monitoring all the systems, and all these are production systems, and pushing code to those systems, pushing updates to those systems, making sure everything is safe and secure. We are really the platform upon which the development team is able to put their product. So the Network Operations Center, as I just mentioned, is responsible for monitoring the systems and network across the entire Proofpoint network. We are located in Draper and Belfast, Northern Ireland. The other great thing, to be honest, about this organization is that it touches where you have our products in kind of a silo. You have a vertical silo for each of the products. So you have the archiving product, as we just talked about a minute ago. You have our Proofpoint On Demand product. You have our Proofpoint Essentials product. You have all these. The NOC touches all of those across every single one. So this is typically where we bring people into our operations organization, because they get exposure to not only how our systems work and begin to develop an understanding for that, but they also get to interface with all the other teams, especially when we have an outage. So when we have outages, it's typically a bad thing, but I like to think of it as an opportunity for our NOC, because this is where I see my guys begin to interact with the other teams and develop those relationships that when those other teams say, hey, we have this spot we want to fill. I work with that guy and he's really smart and he really communicates well. Maybe we should talk to him. And I'm constantly shopping people from this group into other departments. In the last 5 months, we've moved 3 people from our Network Operations Center in both Belfast and Draper, which is 16 people in total. We've moved 3 of those individuals into other roles within the company up. So it's absolutely happening. It's something I take pride in. I think it's something Kevin takes pride in when he trains people. And yeah, so I mean, it's a great starting point. And I'm also over data center operations, which I talked about kind of already. Yeah.
How often do you have to travel between different centers?
Great question. How often do you have to travel between different centers? It depends on your role. Myself, if you're asking me, I come out here about once a month. Well, that's the plan now. I've been out here less than that, but now I'll be coming out here once a month. And I'm probably going to Belfast once to twice a year. Most of our communication, since we are global, is done over like video conferencing. We use a system called Zoom, which is amazing, actually. I've used all kinds of different video conferencing, but I really enjoy Zoom. To answer that question, it really depends on the role. In the Network Operations Center, highly unlikely that you're going to travel to another group. There's just no need for it. Data center operations, where the work takes you. Typically, you're located in a certain area, but I may need, for example, I have one guy that works in Europe. I may need to bring him some assistance, or maybe he gets ill or something, so I'll fly somebody out there to help support while he's down. Any questions about these roles? Okay, so let me talk a little bit about the broader organization, because I do get from Newmont the resume books of everybody, and I have shopped these around to all of my peers as well as potential areas that they may be interested in. Typically, these people are going to say, well, let's see how this guy does in the NOC for a while, and then we'll decide. But I wanted to kind of break it down for you. We have systems operations, which is responsible, as I say here, for horizontal systems. What this means is they aren't typically in one of those silos I was talking about before, but they may be deploying systems that support all products across the board. Under that, we have our InfoSec Ops group, which supports all the systems related to our threat protection, attachment defense, and Proofpoint On Demand products. This is actually probably our busiest group, I would say, it's probably the largest grouping of operations people, and the director of that is regularly much busier than I am, so I kind of chuckle at him. Archiving operations, we talked about that. That is basically located out of Toronto, though we have some people located in both Sunnyvale and in Draper. And business platforms, which is, these are the guys who basically build the tools that we use internally for various things. So for example, they built a tool that we can use during incidents that we can now notify the whole company, hey, here's what is going on with any given incident, and here's what the impact of the customers are, and here's the severity of the incident and all that. So that, in particular, the executive teams, when they start getting calls from the big customers that we talked about before, they know what the hell's going on, so that they can say, oh yes, we're aware of that and we're fixing it, as opposed to, what are you talking about? Security operations, these are the guys that protect us internally from hackers, from exploits, from that kind of thing. It's a very small but fairly new group for us, led by an incredibly smart guy named Ray, who has just started maybe 6 months ago. We have our network operations group, and this is different than the NOC, and NOC is kind of a misnomer. It should be probably just operations center. The network operations group is responsible for all our connectivity to various data centers, between those various data centers, etc. This is led by a director named Steve, who comes from Cisco, so he really knows his stuff in regards to networking. And then we have project operations, which is really in support of all of our operations team and helping us make sure we organize our projects correctly and aren't dropping our balls. So, any questions? Yeah.
These groups are centralized, because I believe you mentioned either SysOps or InfoSecOps were located in Toronto, but are there any places where these groups are located specifically, or are they just...
Great question. Primarily the leadership for these groups is out of Sunnyvale, but there is leadership for this group in archiving in Toronto. Additionally, in Belfast, we have a significant SysOps and InfoSecOps organization there, as well as another group that I don't have on here called Essentials, which actually started in Belfast and was part of why we went to Belfast. So it can be, project operations is all in Sunnyvale, but they're working with the teams globally. So sometimes time can have a little impact. You know, it's an 8-hour difference between California and Belfast, so you have to have your meetings really early if you want to catch them before they go home. So we do not have, by the way, and I get asked this a lot, we do not have any presence in India. So
I will say
yeah.
that for a lot of the jobs up here, in particular in SysOps, we'll hire people and here in Draper, in Sunnyvale, or in Toronto. So most of the leadership will take them at any of those sites.
Yep, yep. So see, I told you you should have a mic.
No.
I think back here first.
Yeah. So I know that no system has 100% uptime, but you've mentioned downtime a couple times now.
Yep.
How often do you actually experience outages?
Great question. In the last 3 weeks, it's been brutal. It's been brutal. Remember earlier when I said our objective is to like gain all this distance on our opponents and just keep your foot on the gas? I mean, we're taking that seriously. And so really when you have outages, and this is true of any tech company, the most often time, the most vulnerable you become is when you make change. When you make change, you're almost asking for a problem. And our job is to make changes. So because the development team has been aggressively making changes, we've seen in the last 3 weeks a lot of difficulty, a lot of trouble. So now that we've been collecting all that data, we go to the dev team, we're like, what are you doing? And they say, oh man, all right, stop what we're doing. Let's figure out what the problems are before we proceed any further. So we've actually stopped just for a short period of time while we figure out and investigate what the problems are, and then we'll move forward from there. Actually, I had a question back here first before you. Yeah, so Essentials is a company we purchased a while back. I'll be perfectly honest, like I'm not real clear on what the product does itself. Do you have?
Similar to our PPS and a smaller version of PPS. They're also going to integrate TAP.
Okay, so it's kind of a small business type solution. Yeah, I think somebody over here had their hand raised before you. I'll come back.
So, for example, if you hire somebody in Draper, but the position that you need is in Ireland, do you like help them manage to get onto Ireland for that position?
Yeah, so to answer that question, I'll kind of answer for HR. We have like relocation packages and that kind of thing. If it was necessary that that person be there and that person was, you know, if we couldn't find those skill set in that area and we were like, this is the guy we want, we're willing to move them there. We have like various relocation packages and that kind of thing we would use. Typically though, like it I'd kind of be hard pressed to say, well, he's in Draper, well, let's just keep him in Draper, you know, and have that work be done there. It would be a very unique situation where we couldn't. For example, talking about Essentials, we have a guy working in Sunnyvale right now who works for the Essentials team, but he's actually kind of spearheading a lot of what they're doing, and he works remotely and alone from them. And it causes some issues. He's like, oh, they're not up at this time and I need help, but there's plenty of other people around that can help him. And then it was back here.
Yeah, you mentioned SecOps is pretty new.
Yeah.
How fast is that?
So right now, I don't know if he has any open positions.
Yeah,
He just filled one.
We just hired 3.
Yeah.
We just hired 3.
Yeah.
For him, and he's started maybe, I don't know, beginning of the year.
It's-
maybe 6 months.
Yeah, so yeah, we have one more position open currently. I think that's where he's going to stop. The great thing about this group, to be honest with you, is you know, it's the first time I've seen us approach it in such a methodic way. This guy really knows what he's talking about, so we brought in really a top tier individual to run that team. And so I think it's eye-opening for a lot of the company too. And yeah, so but also they're not unwilling to pull from the Network Operations Center, to be honest with you. And in fact, we've looked recently at maybe we could be a security operations center as well, and we're kind of not going that direction right now. But that doesn't mean in the future we don't spin something off of the NOC to have like incident response type stuff from a SecOps point of view. Let's go.
Say for that area right now, we're primarily looking for the Bay Area, so in Sunnyvale.
I would say not only are we looking for Bay Area, we're also looking for senior security people at this point.
Great.
I was just going to ask about how like the culture is working at Proofpoint, like the work to life ratio.
That's the second time we've been asked that today. It's really so I'd say this in life in general. Don't be a victim, right? Take ownership of what your work to life balance is, and then ask for help where you need it. And that's how our company is.
So it's pretty much like as long as you're doing your things, you just kind of do whatever. It's not. I was just kind of asking like if you did like kind of like there's some companies to where they'll have like event things where they just don't go off and just like.
We absolutely do events. In fact, I was just telling somebody we just did what we have as an annual margarita blend-off. Is that what it's called? We have margarita blend-off. I don't know, mixer or blend-off. And the first year I was here a month before it happened, and they kept talking about, oh, there's this margarita blend-off. I'm like, okay, whatever. And then I go and I saw like how serious people were taking this, to the point where, like the first year, you didn't see the first year, there were people dressed up as like Mario and Luigi and like Yoshi and all this stuff, and they had built like their display out of boxes so it looked like an 8-bit kind of display, and they were mixing, and like, so then, like, and that was just one example of how serious people were taking this. The next year, we got involved, led by one of my peers, Adam, and so we said, okay, what are we going to do? We built a machine that actually made your margarita for you. Like you had dials and you could choose the ingredients. We programmed the machine to do it. And then not only that, like he had made this remote controlled milk crate, right, for his kids. And we basically made a robot on it that was holding a drink tray, and we'd drive it around serving drinks. So we won 2 out of the 4 awards last year. And then this year we created a deconstructed margarita, which was essentially all the margarita components made to look like a sushi in a cone. Like the wrap was lime. Think of like a fruit roll-up type wrap, and yeah, and it was kind of like. And then the tequila was like a rice that looked like rice, but it was actually like a Jello type, but it was all tequila. When you ate the whole thing, like there was this I don't remember what we call it. It was crazy over the top. And we won 2 out of 4 awards again. Not the best tasted, but we won best presentation and best user choice. But it tasted like a margarita. When you ate the whole thing, you're like, oh, this is really weird. Okay. But no, so we do things like that. The company is very much like, it's all about camaraderie. And honestly, I wouldn't work there. It has been seriously some of the best 2 years of my life. Like I would not work there if it weren't for the people I was working with. They're fantastic people.
Sorry to jump around.
No.
Back to the downtime concept.
Yeah. Oh, God, I was hoping to avoid that. No, that's fine.
Policies, procedure systems you use to mitigate them before it happens and once it actually does happen, prevent it from lasting?
So that's a great question. The question was in regards to outages, effectively, I think we can call that. What systems do we use to mitigate them and resolve them?
Yeah.
Okay, so great question. As I mentioned earlier, we're using Nagios and Nog UI to view alerts that happen. The systems are fairly robust and resilient, right? But occasionally we do have major incidents. It would be awesome if we had some kind of runway where we had before we pushed code live, like we ran it in a test bed and all that, and we're not quite there yet. We should have been a long time ago. Again, I've been there 2 years, so we've been bringing new concepts to the company that weren't there before. So we don't have any kind of real test bed where we're testing this stuff before we put it in production. We tested a short amount of production before we roll it out wide. But during an incident, what happens is we get the alerts. The NOC typically opens what we call an OMS, or outage management system, and notifies the whole company, hey, this is what's going on. They get the right people on who can solve it based on what system is having the problem. We have that all mapped. And those people will typically join a chat and they'll fix whatever the problem is. We then have post the incident, we have what we call a post-mortem, which is a process you will probably hear about frequently, where we say, okay, what went wrong? How do we prevent it from going wrong again? So we create remediation items around that, like items and bugs that we assign to people to say, fix this so it doesn't happen again. And we actually created, our tools team created kind of a weighing metric for those remediation items where, let's say the same remediation item is responsible for multiple incidents. It gets weighted higher, so we know this is something we need to fix immediately, as opposed to waiting a week or two to fix it. I feel like I haven't quite answered your question, though. Okay, good. I just wanted to make sure I hit all the buttons there. Yeah.
For new employees, what is the ramp-up time of like work and training before they're actually working?
It's a very solid question. Depends on, I would say it depends on the role that you're taking. Some of the more complex roles could take anywhere up to 6 months to really get kind of up to speed. I mean, to be realistic, you're probably working within 30 days on production systems, but you know, you would incrementally build up to, okay, we're going to have you do these little things. Now we're going to have you do, you know, if somebody came in that was super senior and understood a lot of the complex things, they'd probably ramp up a lot faster. The reality is, it takes you, in any job like this, realistically, it takes you 6 months to a year to figure out what the hell you're doing and figure out where you're going. And we understand that. In the NOC, you have a training program that lasts about 2 weeks.
I have a 10-day training program before we put you on shift.
So
then you're expected to carry your own weight after about 90 days. But the actual training and nuances can take 3 to 4 months, 5 to 6 months.
yeah, and you're paired with other people that are there and know what they're doing, right? So you can always ask questions. I can't strive teamwork enough. I came from a military background. I've been involved in, I'm sure many of you, massively multiplayer games. I love the teamwork concept. That's the thing that appeals to me about those things, and it carries over into my work life too. I absolutely stress teamwork, I think you could say regularly, because collectively we're smarter than we are individually. And that's kind of Proofpoint in a nutshell. Thanks for letting me take your time. If anybody has any other questions, I'll be up here for a few minutes. But thank you so much. I appreciate it.